Hey, how's it going?
Good. How are you, Jesse?
I'm doing well. Everybody, this is Tanner. Tanner's part of my sports management worldwide class. We're currently in a class for general manager and scouting for baseball. I'm creating something right now, and Tanner's helping me out with it, is just vlogging about our experience, how we got to where we are, uh, and where we're headed or what our dreams are. So today we'll have a little 30 to 45-minute chat just about those things. Tanner, why don't you introduce yourself and tell us how you got to where you are right now?
Hey, everybody. I'm Tanner Colton. I'm from Pittsburgh, so I'm a lifelong Pirates fan, unfortunately. I'm just kidding. Um, so I fell in love with baseball at a young age. I played all through Little League, high school, a little bit in college, but then I realized well, as you're a kid, you dream, oh, I'm gonna be a Major League Baseball player. And I'm sure every kid who touches a baseball thinks that same thing. So I went to college for sport administration, and I tell this to everybody. When I first sat down with my advisor freshman year, he asked me, "What's your dream job?" I said, "I'd like to be a major league general manager." And, fast forward, I graduated and I finally realized, the route I want to take, I'd like to work in some sort of like baseball operations. And this past year, I got in with Sports Info Solutions as a baseball video scout. And honestly, that is a very good starting position for people who are looking to get into any type of like scouting or like analytics or baseball ops role. I definitely recommend them.
Very cool. So yeah, Tanner and I, we started this class roughly about 5 weeks ago. Myself, as far as like the scouting side goes, or how I kind of got into it, for roughly 10 to 12 years, I was a general manager of a retail store, worked in the service industry, and sort of like a commercial delivery industry. But during the whole time, I've never felt I was chasing a passion of mine. And I came across sports management worldwide, and I've taken a few different classes. Baseball scouting is one of them. And I remember the first class we all kind of talked about our first baseball memory, or what made, ourselves fall in love with the game. Me personally, and I'll have you share yours. My first baseball memory was at the Metrodome, and it was Joe Mauer's first home run in the Metrodome. And at the time, I want to say I was roughly about 8 years old, and uh, I didn't, at that time, you're not following MLB pipeline or MLB trade rumors. I don't even think the internet was like prevalent when I was 8. Uh, so I had no idea who this guy was or anything, but I just remember that's like my first true memory, because I had played it, up until then, but it was something that really stuck out to me for some reason. And I want to say Carlos Silva was pitching that game. I remember that detail as well. But for me personally, just in the dome was a different atmosphere. If you've seen other episodes, I've critiqued Target Field before because I just have such a love for the Dome Dogs, Wally the Beer Man, all these things. So personally, Joe Mauer, Metrodome, before Little League, during Little League. How about you? What's your first baseball memory, or Pirates fan memory?
My first game, well, maybe not my first game, but the first game that I remember, I think it was like the day before my ninth birthday. And it was against back when the Astros were in the NL Central. I went to PNC and I think they won 9-0 the day before my ninth birthday, which I thought was really cool.
Yeah.
Granted, it was like what 2010. They weren't very good. Neither of them were. But honestly, from a young age, my grandfather, he was a huge baseball guy, and he's one of the main reasons that I am as much of a baseball nerd as I am today. Um, but yeah, I've had a lot of ups and downs as a Pirate fan growing up, but it's always been I've always known that baseball has been my number one.
Yeah. What we kind of talked about this off air before we started, but I was asking again, what drew you into the idea of scouting analytics, or front office work?
Well, when you first get into like sport administration and you want to work in baseball, you're not exactly certain of what area. Like you want to try out a couple of different things.
Hmm.
So in 2022, I got to intern with the Washington Wild Things of the Frontier League, and I worked in their primarily in their box office doing like ticket sales, which I originally thought that's what I wanted to do, but I tried it out and I'm like, this isn't quite my thing. So I got to do a little bit of like baseball operations work with them, and I liked it a lot. So I'm like, I think this is what I want to do. And then now, since that I've been with Sports Info Solutions, I realized it even more. Like, yeah, this is my passion.
For sure. What are some things that you have learned watching baseball at a whole nother level rather than just maybe a fan's perspective?
There's so many different ways to look at it. There's so much data involved and so many little facets of the game that people don't realize just watching it normally.
Yeah.
It's incredible.
Nuances. Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. Definitely. Yeah, I'm currently in the position right now myself when I'm watching games. I'm trying to guess the pitches before they come.
Mhm.
'Cause I've noticed that with some of our mentors thus far and some other people that have been in the game for a long time, they know what's coming before it comes. I
Yeah.
specifically remember Torrey Hunter being on Twins broadcast, like I want to say like 6 years ago, and he knew everything before it came. And that to me seems like just such a next level way of watching the game. And maybe as we progress the series, we can get to that level. I think that'd be super interesting. Um, overall, just before we move on to the next thing, what do you think of your Pirates so far this year?
I was optimistic to start the season. We just got swept by the Reds, but they're going to be a good team.
Yeah,
I
Reds are
think
going to
I
be
think
good.
the Pirates will rebound. I'm not certain that they'll make the playoffs, but I would hope that they can at least maybe flirt with 500. I
Yeah,
think.
yeah,
I mean, the division's not a runaway favorite, so
yeah,
who
right.
knows? Typically, they start off April really hot and then cool off, but maybe it'll be the opposite this year. It'll just continue to be warm the whole year and suck in April.
Yeah, here in Minnesota, it's been challenging to say the least.
Yeah.
One thing that happened, and I'm not sure if this is the same thing over in Pittsburgh, but last summer, Twins baseball was taken off of cable because of some dispute. So Minnesota, we didn't have baseball games on cable for I want to say it was May through August. And of course, that was the team's hot stretch last season. And then August through September, they went like, they completely collapsed, lost the division. Fans are upset. The last series of the season, they had the lowest attendance of any team, even the White Sox. And then to start this season, they started off poor, and they this last Friday had the third lowest attendance ever in Target Field history to start a weekend. And then on Sunday was Joe Mauer Statue Day, which I have my own opinions about, but that only drew 15 grand of people. It's
Really?
yeah, it's a really there's a lot of fans here right now that are not happy with the current state of the Twins, and it's super interesting to watch. And as I'm transitioning from a fan perspective over to this level of scout, I'm really trying to see it through like a front office's eyes of like some decisions that have been made. And, the owners have
Mm.
listed the team for sale. They said they opened a 45-day bid window for somebody to buy the team. But overall, it's this is the first season I think that I'm not reacting as a fan and more so just trying to understand where or what the plan is or what where the direction is. And that kind of leads me into this next question I have for you with what you've learned thus far. You're building a team. What's your priority?
One of my favorite tools and one that can't really be taught is speed.
Yeah.
I think me personally, like if you have a fast outfield, that's such a huge advantage
Yeah.
over a team that like isn't like that. I mean, on that, I think the top three factors I would say that this speedy outfield, a good bat, but also a good defensive catcher, and I would also say a very strong bullpen.
Okay.
Those are the three things that I would
I respect
focus
that.
on first. Yeah.
Where do you rank analytics versus feel? What's the line? Because when you say defensive catcher, you got that catcher that can frame, but let's say his pop time is
Right.
not the greatest, or his anticipation for, well, as we were talking about, knowing what's going to happen before it happens. Where's the analytics versus feel for you?
I'd say it's pretty close to being even. I'd say maybe 50-50 or 60-40 at
Yeah.
most, either way. It just depends.
Does it?
I,
I'm not sure. I haven't watched a whole lot of Pirates baseball. Is Derek Shelton still the
mhm,
team
yes.
manager? Is there a lot, because he was the bench coach for the Twins before he came over to Pittsburgh? Is there a lot of platoon style play? If a lefty pitcher comes into the game, the
Yeah.
lefty hitter immediately gets subbed out. And
Yeah. But
yeah,
it's pretty often, I'd say.
Minnesota, we see that a lot too. And again, going back to the whole fan versus front office side of it, I understand the strategy of it, but do,
Mhm.
let me get your opinion on this. Don't you feel a lefty, maybe like for instance with the team that I watch on a daily basis the most, like a Matt Wallner, for instance, let
Right.
him get 100 at bats against a lefty, just so that way he's able to be more accustomed to it. If it comes a time in September when you really don't want to pull that bat out of the lineup, because let's say he's at 30 plus home runs at that time, you're not gonna pinch hit a guy that has 1,000 OPS, even though a lefty comes in, right? What
Exactly.
what's your feel on that?
I think there's a lot of different factors that weigh into it. Like you said, if you have a guy that has 30 homers, 1,000 OPS, why do it?
Yeah, my
Um,
platoon.
and then you also have to look at, say they bring in a lefty pitcher.
Hmm.
What's his success rate against righties? What's his success rate against lefties? You also have to factor that in when you're deciding to platoon or pinch hit.
Yep.
And then vice versa, you'd have to do it for the pitcher if you're on offense. But I mean, yeah, it's kind of like a gray area, I would say. You would probably agree. It
Yeah,
also depends on like the success of the hitter you have in the lineup and like what inning it is. There's so many factors that could play into it.
definitely. Yeah, I personally think what you're saying about speedy outfield, good catcher is a great foundation to a team.
Mhm.
I would also argue that shortstop and second base are so important
Yep.
also.
Hmm.
Just like the overall fundamentals of the game. Again, going back to the Twins, they're 5-11. They've only had 16 games thus far this season, or there's been 16 games this far this season. There's only been three of them where they have had less errors than their opponents. So the other 13 games, they've either had more errors or the same amount of errors, which has been just a absolute disappointment overall. But at the same time, it's like they're strong up the middle for the most part. They got Correa at short, you got Buxton in center. But it seems like what's lacking is third and first. Ty France has started off hot at first base, but when he's in the field, him stretching at first base to get an out, if it's a bang bang play, it's not there. Third base, Brooks Lee and Royce Lewis have been hurt, so we haven't been able to really see what the true infield looks like. But for me personally, if I were building a team, I would go with your solid catcher, and I would almost prioritize not only a good defensive catcher, but a catcher that can hit because it's such a rarity. It's like if you had like the first overall pick in a fantasy draft, would you take a Paul Skeens, who's like top of the charts pitcher? Or would you take a catcher like an Adley Rutschman who can call a game, can hit, can run? That's a tough call, isn't it?
You picked my guy though.
I know I did. Okay, let's go Clayton Kershaw 7 years ago.
7 years ago.
Yeah,
He's still
2.2 ERA Clayton Kershaw.
that's tough to beat. I
Yeah.
mean,
Yeah.
consistently. I mean, if you're getting a catcher like Rushman that you know isn't going to take long to get to the majors, I think you have to.
Yeah. Yeah, it
Because
seems that way.
not only that, but to have a perennial backstop for 10 plus years, that's rare.
Yeah.
Like you look at guys like Yadi Molina, Salvador Perez, how often does that happen?
Yeah. Right. Yadi Molina played for years and was durable too. Super
He
durable.
torched us.
Yeah, he's in your division. That's right. That's right.
Two holes. Yeah.
Yeah, right. I speaking of him, I think he finished at 696. Oh, no, he got past the 700, didn't he?
He got a
Yeah.
700. Yeah.
Okay. Okay. That's right. I was reading an old article and I was thinking to myself, no, he got past the 700. So,
Mm.
but unfortunately for you, once he left, he was already kind of at that point past the prime of
Yeah.
350 and
What a
40 home
prime.
runs every
Yeah.
season. Yeah. Yeah. So, okay, so you're in the class, we're in the scouting class, and we're learning about priorities of a front office. What other tools have you thus far seen that you need to get to that next level in working with a major league team, whether it be a scout or in the front office in some capacity?
For myself,
Yeah, for yourself, with where you're at, and like networking wise, what are some tools that you're using, to take that next step?
my current state, I am lacking a little bit of like the data analytics side of
Mhm.
baseball ops.
Yeah,
So I'm trying to dive more into, I know a lot of teams use like SQL, Python, R.
yeah,
Um, so I'm trying to dive into that. That's a good, if you are familiar with that, I think you'll carry over well because a lot of positions in baseball operations, not that they require it, but a lot of them recommend that you have some sort of like basic knowledge with those type of data.
yeah, yeah. It seems, and we were on a call last week with, and I might butcher his last name. Michael, is it Sazor? Is that how you say it?
Something like that. Yeah, he's
The
with the Marlins.
the Marlins, yeah. And he was
That guy's
break,
incredible.
yeah, he's super incredible, and he was breaking down the next gen style of dead zone and the different capacities of movement for a pitcher, not just the ball movement, but the movement of the body. And I knew personally that baseball used next level types of scouting, but when I saw what he was presenting, it was like a whole nother world.
Yeah,
And that's something that to me personally is super exciting. Um, I actually, and of course, it's not the right um, coding book, but like a year ago, I did buy a coding book to begin learning how to code. But then AI
okay.
kind of came into play, and AI can code. So I was like, okay, well, maybe I won't, maybe I won't, spend the extra 5 hours a week reading this book and pretending that I know how to code when I'm not really applying it to real life right now. But I feel like maybe I should pick up one of those books because it could definitely be useful going forward. Um, on top of the analytics side of getting in it, it seems like to me it also is about something called building your brand with a lot of different people. Strategy for me most recently is, I made a LinkedIn roughly about 6 weeks ago, and I've put all of my energy of social media, which was once Twitter, Instagram, Facebook, all the useless crap, to be perfectly honest. And I've put it just all into LinkedIn. Because it seems like you can develop a lot of like real quality connections, and it's the best way to build your name with some sort of credibility on top of it. How do you have how long have you had LinkedIn, and how do you use it personally? Because I believe you have 500 plus connections from when I looked most recently. How-
I don't know if I have that many. I would say LinkedIn is a must have if you're trying to work in baseball. And it's incredible how you get to basically, like at the tap of a finger, you get to network with so many professionals and people who are in looking in the same for the same type of like career that you are.
Yeah.
Um, myself, I keep up with it for job postings, if you connect with people, a lot of times they'll share if they get a new position, or you can share yourself. And through that, honestly, like if someone sees that you like the post, like say you got a new job position
Hmm.
and I liked your post, my whole connections would see that and they'd be like, "Oh, this Jesse Hunt guy is pretty cool. I should connect with him."
Right.
So it's
Right.
pretty neat, LinkedIn. I definitely recommend, if you are not on already, to definitely
Yeah.
and connect with us.
Yeah, connect with everybody and
Exactly.
try to build relationships because the best way to get to where you want to go is to network and
Exactly.
to have a positive brand out there for people. So if somebody asks me, "What's Tanner like?" And I'm like, "Tanner's like the best." You know, what does my word really mean? Well, it must mean something if I'm being asked that, but the whole point of what I'm saying here is it seems like a very, very strong tool to use to maybe
Mhm.
get to that next level.
Exactly.
Okay, give me a sleeper. Who's someone that is either in the minors or someone that you've been um watching in college that you feel like could really contribute or make their way through the the minors pretty quick.
I know I'm biased when I say this as a Pirate fan, but I
Okay.
think Connor Griffin is going to be an absolute stud.
Okay.
I mean, every highlight I see of this kid hitting, as soon as he puts bat to ball, he is sprinting full speed to around the bases. I'm like, this kid hustles, and
That's exciting.
he's like 6'3". He's built like a tank. He's
Okay.
so fast. He's strong. He's incredible.
Fill me in on Griffin. I am not too familiar. What position does he play? Center field?
He plays. I think he was drafted as a shortstop, but he has
Yeah.
been playing outfield center.
Okay.
The range is insane. I
Awesome.
remember it might have been against the Twins. There was a spring training game in Bradenton, I believe. He made this diving catch. It was incredible.
Okay.
He's so quick.
So every time you see him, he flashes.
Oh yeah.
Where is he ranked in the pipeline? Do you know off the top of your head?
No, I'm not certain off the top of my head what number it is.
Mine is Luke Keeschel. The Twins took
Mm,
him, I want to say it was 2 or 3 years ago. It was the same as the Walker Jenkins draft, and Keeschel was in the
right.
second round. He missed last year with Tommy John, but he's a hitter. He plays
Mhm.
second base. He's got decent size and really good contact skills. And overall, I've really been craving a first baseman for my team for since Justin Morneau,
Yeah.
had the whole collision in Toronto, the concussion, and then all of a sudden, like everything changed. When we're talking about important positions, I know it's not like top three or top four, but man, having a really good first baseman is fun. It's something that I just enjoy watching. So
I agree.
I have a lot of love for the one year that CJ Cron was in a Minnesota Twins jersey. He's super underrated at first base. Watching him dig balls out of the dirt is so fun, and he's so good at it. And great stretching at first too. Like almost does the splits.
I think he may have struggled, but I remember I think it was 2013 when we made the wild card. Morneau was with us.
Yeah.
I'm not sure if we traded for him. I think he may have struggled a little bit, but it was cool
Okay.
to have him.
Was that the Liriano time also? Or is Liriano a little?
Yes.
Okay. Okay.
Hmm.
Yes. Uh, awesome. All right. So what's next for you? What are you working on? Any projects?
I haven't done them in a while, but I really enjoyed early on. Like I would take like just pick a random game from a certain day, and then I'd use like the lineup once it comes out. Like I'd take the lineup, write it down, and then I'd use the pitcher that's pitching that day, and I'd think to myself, how would I tell this pitcher to attack these hitters?
Okay.
So I'd gather all this data using like Baseball Savant, Fangraphs, and I would basically write next to each hitter, pound them with sliders away,
Sure.
jam them middle in with a fastball, and I'd like show his strengths and weaknesses and how I would attack each hitter. I just really enjoyed doing that. So I guess that's more of like an advanced scouting thing.
Yeah.
So I
That's
don't know,
fun.
maybe that's a route I want to take. I'm not sure yet.
definitely, definitely. And
But
go ahead.
oh, sorry. Um, but I'm hoping, I really enjoyed my time with Sports Info Solutions, but long term, I'd like to get in with a full-time position with a major league team in some sort of baseball ops or advanced scouting role. And I'm hoping that, this sports management worldwide course will help a lot with giving me getting me prepared for a career and get to know and have Hank and Dan as connections because they're two of the bestest ever.
Yeah, I agree.
I
I
you
agree.
agree.
All right, last question for you. Give me one player that has shaped how you see the game. And my assumption with you being a Pirates fan is it might be Andrew McCutchen since you like speed in the outfield.
He was the first player as a kid that I just fell in love with.
Yeah,
Like yours was Joe Mauer, mine was McCutchen. Like
right, right.
that guy was so incredible I mean, he still is. Like,
Yeah,
he's not 25 anymore, but
yeah,
I still will have a special place in my heart for McCutchen. But he was just awesome in the outfield and then the bat. He's incredible. What a talent. It's a shame because I think he's in the category of Hall of Very Good,
yes, yes.
but it is what it is.
And that's the way I feel. And I know he was a first ballot Hall of Famer unanimously, and he's getting a statue built for him. But that's kind of the way I feel about Joe
No.
Mauer. He was really good for about 5 or 6 years. Like, top of the food chain good.
Yeah.
Batting titles, MVP, solid behind the plate. And then he had the injury issues. And at first he was all right, but he wasn't what he was. And the other part of it too was at the Metrodome, it was a very hitter friendly ballpark. And for him especially, opposite field home runs were common because I think that left field wall was so short. To my friend the other day, I brought up to him, well, what about Yohan Santana? He for about 4 or 5 years, he was the best pitcher in baseball, and it wasn't even
Yeah.
close. And he doesn't even get a Hall of Fame run. Like he was in the voting, he never got it. And I realized that he didn't stay in the game for as long as Mauer did, but when you say Hall of Very Good, as a Minnesota fan, and I'm not trying to dunk on anybody, I just I don't see it as much. Maybe not like unanimous first ballot, but it'll be interesting to see because McCutchen was with his same team for most of the time. I think he had a little bit of a Giants run, but
Yeah.
usually it seems like those guys that really stick with that one team and like build that foundation of fans seem to get a little bit further than a guy that bounces around a little bit. So,
Exactly.
yeah,
Yeah.
very cool. All right, man. Well, I appreciate you hopping on. If you like what
Perfect.
you heard, Tanner, I might, try to do this again in a week or two and just continuously post some episodes, recording our pathway to the show, as they like to
Yeah.
say.
That'd
So,
be awesome.
thank you again. Like, subscribe, follow. Thank you.